everyone, and welcome to Breaking Through Employment Barriers with Digital Credentials. Today's speakers are Pete Jansdale from Credly and Hari Raghavan from IBM Corporate Social Responsibility. At the end of the session, we'll be keeping the line open for a 30-minute open discussion and Q&A with the speakers. Feel free to submit your questions through chat, or you can unmute your line and ask your questions then. Now I'd like to turn it over to Pete.
All right. Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome. I'm Pete Janzo. I'm the Vice President for Business Development at Credly, co-founder of the Acclaim initiative at Pearson. About 3 years ago, Acclaim spun out of Pearson and merged with Credly to form one company. And I'll tell you a little more about that here in a second. With me today is Hari Raghavan, who's the Senior Program Manager for Education at IBM's Corporate Social Responsibility team. He's based in New York City, and he's the content strategy lead for IBM's SkillsBuild platform for job seekers. Really exciting program, and we're delighted to bring it in to this year's meeting. So, Hari is also involved with projects related to community college engagement and technology skills development for K-12 students. So, without further ado, again, I'm with Credly. And we are just delighted to have reached this inflection point in the growth of digital credentials. Never has it been more important to do the things that digital credentials are able to do. So that involves not just issuing badges for recognition, but really establishing trust around skills that people have, giving people credit for what they know and what they can do, and increasingly pushing that trusted information into the decision-making process to develop human capital, to help people achieve their potential. Of course, the common language here is skills and verified skills backed by the organizations you trust. And again, it's a unique moment in time. Never has it been more important. And hiring organizations, skilling organizations, learning organizations are all sharing in this imperative around equity and social justice, because learning unlocks opportunities for people. So who are our partners? Where does Credly fit in all of this? Well, these are the logos of some of the groups that we work with. And as you can see, there are some pretty known organizations, whether they're investors like City and Guilds or Pearson or Lumina, or whether they're strategic partners like ACE or EDUCAUSE or SHRM. It's a pretty powerful coalition, and again, we're excited to be doing this work. We do this work on behalf of the groups that work with us as issuing organizations. This is a cross-section of the more than 1,600 clients that Credly supports through our software as a service. And again, hopefully some very familiar brands here and very familiar programs. When we engage in working with these issuing organizations, we always ask them, what are your goals? What is it you're trying to do with your digital credential programs? And so these are 6 boxes that illustrate what the answers to those questions are from several of our issuing organizations. Whether the goal is learner engagement, or trying to drive completion of programs, or growing the number of people who get professionally certified. Maybe it's a marketing imperative and people are trying to grow brand awareness for their programs. And increasingly, there's direct impact on employment prospects for people, especially again, in this time of economic disruption from the pandemic. A growing number of our issuing partners are concerned about helping people to find a job or keep their job or get promoted. We work across the entire spectrum for applications of digital credentials, things at the low end that might represent less rigorously assessed outcomes, experience-related things, events, participation, leadership activities. The learning spectrum, whether that's informal learning that's not measured, or more formally structured learning that is measured and externally validated. And then, of course, at the high end, we work with a number of the world's leading professional credentialing bodies. So that's an idea of kind of where Credly is coming to this conversation with. And now let me set the stage, if I can, to introduce our friend Hari from IBM. With this fact, I recently came across this and it really kind of hit me over the head. But in a recent study, they determined that digital job capacity, so the total number of technology-oriented jobs, will grow by 5 times between today and 2025. So what does that challenge mean for the world's global economy? What does it mean for the workforce of the world? And answering that question and addressing this challenge is really what Hari is all about with this SkillsBuild program. So Hari, over to you.
Thank you, Pete. Let me just share my screen. So I'm gonna take you through some slides, but then I'm gonna also show you a demo of the site that I work on called SkillsBuild. So pleased to be with you all today. My name is Hari. I'm based here in New York City, as Pete said. I work as a senior program manager in the education and skills group of IBM's corporate social responsibility, or CSR, group. So lots of tech companies and other companies have CSR initiatives and corporate social responsibility groups. And the idea is that we want to give back to the communities in which we operate as IBM. And so we have a number of initiatives that are programmatic in nature, and the ones that I work on for education and skills development focus on 2 core groups: K-12 students and teachers, and higher ed, and also adult job seekers, specifically underserved and underrepresented groups who are interested in entering careers in tech, whether that be at IBM or elsewhere. And so the program that I'm going to talk to you about, and which I'm most involved with, is called SkillsBuild. And SkillsBuild, I'll show you kind of set some context and then show you the tool and how it works. So I'm going to start with this stat, which says, that 15% of IBM's yearly hires do not have a traditional 4-year degree and are filling what we call new collar roles. And there are a number of areas like cybersecurity, cloud computing, data science, and design that this applies to. So what does this mean? At IBM, we talk a lot about new collar jobs, that we say, these aren't blue collar jobs, they're not white collar jobs, they're new collar jobs. And what it means is that there are a number of jobs in this digital economy, in the tech sector, in financial services, in healthcare, in any sector you can think of, that don't require a 4-year degree. What they require is skills, experience, passion, and determination. And so we have a number of these jobs at IBM, and any company you can think of has what you would consider a new collar role. So in addition to this, when we think about how we promote jobs at IBM, and when we have job requisitions and we have HR and recruiting working to bring in new individuals into our company, we've moved away from this idea of degree-based hiring. So about 50% of all jobs that IBM posts don't list bachelor's degree as a requirement. And so we're seeing this movement both within IBM and more broadly in the tech sector of prioritizing skills and experience and passion and determination over a traditional degree. And so why am I sharing this stat? On the other side of the coin is this idea of how do we then support individuals who are trying to get the skills and experience that they need to be competitive for roles in the tech sector, whether that's in a job in customer service, in cybersecurity, in web development, what have you. So what we did here at IBM within the corporate social responsibility group beginning in mid-2019 is we did some research and we launched this platform, this website called SkillsBuild. And SkillsBuild, the idea, the founding principle was we can and we should offer training, credentialing, and certification opportunities for people, for adult job seekers to access in order for them to be competitive for new collar jobs, whether that be at IBM or elsewhere. And so the model we followed really was twofold. One is that we partnered specifically with nonprofits and NGOs. So right now, as of today, we're in 16 countries. We're partnered with about 90 nonprofits and NGOs. And what we do is we offer SkillsBuild to these nonprofits and NGOs so that they can augment their existing career inclusion and employability programs. So to give you a concrete example, which actually ties directly to this photo here, what you're looking at is a USO, United Service Organizations, transition counselor. And this individual works with military spouses and also active duty and recent veterans who are moving from the military to the civilian sector. And as part of this process, in addition to life planning and financial planning, the USO transition scouts or counselors work directly with these folks so that they get the right education and skills training they need to be competitive for jobs in the civilian sector. And so in the case of the USO, what we did is we said, look, we have this platform called SkillsBuild. We know you have a robust transitions program. How can we help you through SkillsBuild make this training accessible and available for free, obviously, to your constituents? And so we partnered with this organization, as we do with a number of organizations across the globe, not just working with military veterans and military spouses, but also working with people who are suffering from long-term unemployment, refugees, migrants, and asylum seekers, people who are making transitions back into the workforce after leaves of absence, any number of groups that you can think of that might be historically underserved or underrepresented, and that we feel can benefit from this program. And so again, to recap, IBM CSR partners with a nonprofit or an NGO who in turn uses this program, this SkillsBuild website, which I'm going to show you, to provide additional training, certification, and credentialing opportunities to the people that they serve. And the ultimate goal, obviously, is upskilling, is badge attainment, and I'll talk more about how we work with Credly and the Acclaim platform to do that, but also increased employment prospects. So this is a relatively new program, and there's really two components to it. One is the job role specific training and credentialing. So I'm going to show you when I take you to the site what those career paths are, what these new collar career paths are in areas like cybersecurity and web development and customer service. But in addition to that, this kind of high touch support that is kind of hard to come by, right? If you're somebody who's looking for a new career opportunity, or you're unemployed or underemployed, you need more than just training and credentialing and certification. You need things like mentoring. You need project-based learning opportunities and a chance to apply what you've learned in a real-world context. Sometimes you can benefit from a career assessment, a skills assessment, and also community, right? So some of the most successful MOOCs and online coursework programs benefit from this community of learners who are helping each other succeed and encouraging each other. And many of us on this call have probably benefited from that type of environment. So when I go into the site, I'll show you each of these components in turn. But really the basic idea is that we wanted to have a more holistic offering, and one that wasn't specific to IBM, right? So we obviously have a good sense within IBM of what it means to prepare people for new collar roles in areas like cybersecurity and web development and enterprise computing. But we also know that there are a number of people in the wider tech employment ecosystem who can share resources, who can share credentialing and certification opportunities for our learners. So SkillsBuild, if anything, is a platform that is kind of technology and company agnostic, and it's really meant to prepare job seekers for roles at a number of companies, whatever they choose to do, whether that's in the tech sector or a tech adjacent field or something that's non-tech at all. And all this will make more sense when I show you the actual website. So as I said, we've partnered with nonprofits and NGOs in over a dozen countries, in 16 countries on all continents. In fact, we started in Europe and then Asia, and then last year we launched in North America. And we're reaching thousands of job seekers who come to us directly through these nonprofit and NGO partnerships. And really let me actually just show you a few examples. So here we have the partners in North America. So I mentioned a couple of them already. The USO that serves military veterans and transitioning service members and military spouses. Casey, also called Vet Jobs, is another organization in that same vein. A number of these other organizations focus on adult education, continuing education. So for example, NGIT in New Jersey, COABE. We have organizations like Access Employment in Canada that does excellent work on cohorts of helping cohorts of learners who are recently arrived in Canada access employment opportunities in areas like cybersecurity. So these partners are crucial to this model working. And the reason for that is that while we have insight and experience in offering this type of these types of offerings and credentials to job seekers, these organizations that work on the ground in communities with job seekers, they have a much better sense of what these job seekers need. They understand their client base. They understand the employment ecosystem in, let's say, Toronto, Canada, or in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. And so together with these organizations, we can provide a more robust offering that's not just about SkillsBuild and the credentialing that we offer, but also connect SkillsBuild directly to employment partners and to larger initiatives that these organizations run to help the people that they're serving. So if you want to learn more about our partnerships, you can go to skillsbuild.org, and I'll show you also in my demo where you can find out more information about how we partner. So this is a view of SkillsBuild. So once you log in, this is what you see. And so what I'm showing here are the career paths. And at the beginning of this presentation, I mentioned this idea of new collar jobs. And what are those? So some examples, and this is not an exhaustive list, are jobs in areas like cybersecurity, data analysis, enterprise computing, Linux or open source, web development, customer service. And that's not to say that, you know, to work as a threat analyst or a SOC analyst or a data scientist or a machine learning engineer, you don't need, you know, advanced degrees or anything like that. But what this is an acknowledgement of is that in these fields, there are a number of roles that don't require four-year degrees. And what they do require is skilling and credentialing that shows and signals to employers that you have the requisite skills to be successful in a job, like working as a data analyst or as a pen tester, for example, in the cybersecurity field. One other point I want to make is, because we serve so many individuals from so many backgrounds, right? It could be somebody who does have a master's degree or has an advanced certification in an area like cybersecurity. It could be somebody who has some basic digital literacy skills, and he or she wants to expand their knowledge in a field like web development. And so what I do as the content strategy lead for this program is I focus on making sure that there are foundational or beginner level offerings that are accessible to everyone, no matter which of these paths you follow, whether it's web development or something that seems completely foreign like Linux system administration or enterprise computing. Whoever you are, when you join this platform, if you're willing to put the time in, there is a beginner level offering for you. And then beyond that, we continue to offer additional learning paths that can help you earn additional certifications or credentials. So this is SkillsBuild. And when I show you the site, I'll go into some more details of how this works. So tying this back to the idea of badges and credentials, those learning paths that I just showed you here, they offer a variety of credentialing opportunities. So some of them link to certification opportunities from partners like Fortinet and Red Hat. But many of our offerings, many of these learning paths, and what I'm most focused on is making badges available. So people can share on LinkedIn when they're applying for jobs with potential recruiters what they've earned through SkillsBuild. And the beauty of these badges is that they all come with not only the SkillsBuild branding, but also the IBM branding. And whenever we partner with an organization that helps us co-develop an offering, a badged offering, we're able to customize that badge so it also has the partner's name. So there's certainly market validity and value to a credential, even more so when we can tie it back to a company like IBM who's vetted the content, who has instructional designers and subject matter experts building these courses to make sure that they are not only of a high quality, but are aligned to specific skills and competencies that are needed in the job market. So we use Credly's Acclaim platform, which that Pete mentioned, for two purposes. One, you can see here on the Acclaim site, you can see that we have this specific site here that showcases all the IBM SkillsBuild badges for each of them, how you earn them, what are the kind of skills and competencies that are aligned to these badges. But also this gives us the freedom to auto issue badges ourselves. So when we have a learner go through a course like Explorations into Mindfulness or Job Application Essentials or Introduction to Data Analysis, we're able to track those completions within SkillsBuild and auto issue these badges through the Credly Acclaim platform. These next slides, I've actually borrowed from one of my colleagues who I believe is on the call, David Leeser, who's kind of our badges guru at IBM. And I've learned a ton from David about badges and SkillsBuild, and he helped me kind of orient myself to the platform when I started. But these slides basically show you what it means to have a badge listed on Acclaim on Credly, and how it can benefit not only the issuing organization, but the job seeker. So what you see here, and many of you are probably familiar with this type of view, is a badge. In this case, it's an IBM badge around Hadoop. And so you see the emblem in the top left corner, you see metadata, right? So what are the skills associated with this particular badge offering? Why is that important? Well, for job seekers, it's important to understand what competencies they're earning and how that ties to their badge, but also for employers who are looking on the Credly platform for specific areas of expertise and are looking to recruit, they can do keyword searches that tie back to badges, not only from IBM, but from other organizations, for example, around big data or project management or what have you. Then you have things like recommended next steps. There's also, toward the bottom of these pages, you have job roles that are aligned to these badge offerings. So a ton of information that can help both the job seeker and a potential employer validate and verify that this credential does mean something. It does mean something in the job market beyond, again, a formal 4-year or 2-year degree. Also, what you see here is how it's easy to share these badges on LinkedIn, and many of you probably shared badges that you've earned, hopefully some from IBM. I'm going to show you some live examples that I pulled the other day of job seekers who have used SkillsBuild and have kind of promoted their learning on LinkedIn on their own profiles. This other slide, also featuring David Leeser, shows an individual's what I call a badge wallet. So many of us at IBM earn badges ourselves. So beyond offering SkillsBuild to the external world, there's a culture of learning and professional development within IBM, and lots of us are proud to be able to showcase our badges in our badge wallet. So you can see this one where you can list your name, your social media, your LinkedIn, your bio, and automatically you'll see the badges that you've earned, whether that's through a program like SkillsBuild or through some other credentialing route. And so this is, again, another way for you to kind of, as a learner or a job seeker in the case of SkillsBuild, promote what you've done to employment partners. And there are people who are super creative in the way that they use Acclaim and Credly and highlight what they've earned. I've seen job seekers who've come through the SkillsBuild platform who've created websites that feature links to their Credly page where they summarize what badges they've earned. So a lot of this stuff, sometimes people don't necessarily kind of focus on their digital wallet of badges and maybe just use LinkedIn, but there are multiple ways for you to kind of, as a job seeker, showcase what you've learned. Within SkillsBuild itself, when we offer these badges, we also make sure to explain to job seekers how you can benefit from a badge, but also how you can do things like what David did here, which is set up a profile and share out what he's earned through the SkillsBuild platform. So we kind of hold hands with our learners so they understand how best to kind of promote themselves once they've earned a badge and how to claim that badge as well. So here are some, when Pete and I were preparing for this presentation, he showed me how to kind of do a keyword search on LinkedIn to see people who have earned badges issued by Credly and Acclaim. So I did that keyword search, and I show you a couple here that align to the offerings that we have in our platform. So this is Zaquan, who's earned our professional skills badge. This is a badge that helps you do things like present with purpose and collaborate effectively and have develop critical and creative thinking skills. You can see that he shared this with his network, and he's got a lot of praise and celebration, which is great to see. Then we have Damaris here. Damaris also earned the Cybersecurity Fundamentals badge. This is one of our core beginner level offerings in cybersecurity. So actually, in this case, Damaris is now a cybersecurity research analyst, and he's also earned this fundamentals badge. So even people who have experience in the field can benefit from this additional learning from IBM. And finally, we've got Zahir here, who has earned the customer engagement badge. This is a badge that's tied to our new color program at IBM, again, around client support roles. And I think we have one more here, Manisha, who earned a badge in web development. This was a badge that's actually offered through SkillsBuild, but in partnership with an organization called CodeDoor. So again, you can see here in that small little light blue, there's a co-brand with our partners at CodeDoor. So I'm just gonna stop sharing this right now, and I'm gonna take you to the site itself and give you a view of SkillsBuild, which I've been talking about. And if anything's not clear, please do feel free to post questions in the chat, and we'll have a Q&A, as Kara said. So this is kind of the pre-login page for SkillsBuild. I will say I've focused mostly on the nonprofit and NGO partner experience. So again, I mentioned the USO and organizations support refugees and migrants and long-term and unemployed individuals, and how they use this platform called SkillsBuild to provide access to training and credentialing opportunities for the job seekers they serve. So excitingly, we launched an open version of this platform. And by open, I just mean that anybody can register for SkillsBuild now. It's a slightly different offering in terms of the content we offer and the badges that are available to the general public. So we have an offering for nonprofit and NGOs that has, you could think of it as a premium version of SkillsBuild, and we have an all access open version of SkillsBuild that any of you can join and check out. And I would love for you to kind of give your feedback after you do so. So if you want to register for SkillsBuild, go to skillsbuild.org, click register, and it's a pretty easy process, and you'll be in the site within a few minutes. But I'm going to focus in my demo on the nonprofit and NGO experience and show you all the badges and opportunities that those folks have to learn. So if I'm a job seeker and my organization has teamed up with SkillsBuild, I'm able to access the platform. And what I see next is this page. Sorry. Let me just actually get you to the page I want to show you. All right, this page here, sorry about that. So what you see here is kind of the entry page for SkillsBuild. Once I've logged in, I have free access to all this material. And just to re-emphasize, SkillsBuild is a corporate social responsibility offering from IBM. We don't charge anything for it. We don't charge partners. We don't charge end learners or the people we're trying to serve. It's a free offering that's funded programmatically by my team. So that's what we invest in. We invest time and people and resources in order to make this available to the world. So here's what you see as a job seeker. There's two ways to navigate this site. One is through the search bar. Obviously, if I wanted to look for courses around project management or Python or entrepreneurship, I can do that. I could also go through the career paths. And so my team and I on the content side, what we do again is look for opportunities to feature learning paths that are aligned to these new collar roles. So I'm going to show you just a couple of these in the time I have remaining to give you a sense of what the learning looks like, how it ties back to badges. So these are the kind of ways to navigate from the content or coursework and credentialing side of the platform. There's a lot of other stuff within SkillsBuild, as I mentioned. There's the community. So right here, if I was to click join the SkillsBuild community, I would go to a linked platform where I can meet my fellow learners. I can join groups. So if you're familiar with Reddit or Quora, it's that kind of structure to the forum. I can also take a career assessment, which is really cool. This is a career assessment from a company called My Inner Genius. And you can think of it as a mix of a personality test, an aptitude test. It gives our learners a chance to figure out, if they're not sure which learning path they want to embark on, which path they should follow. So My Inner Genius has graciously offered this to our platform and our learners. So for example, if I take the My Inner Genius assessment, which takes about 60 minutes, and there's also a shorter assessment now, and based on my results, it might say, look, you're a good fit for a role in enterprise computing or cybersecurity or customer service. And then I can use that to kind of direct myself to the right offering on SkillsBuild. One thing that's a given with any platform, as proud as I am of SkillsBuild, it can be overwhelming to people to have all these options. And especially if you're somebody who's just embarking on a career in tech or just trying to figure things out, it can be hard. So My Inner Genius helps you kind of steer you in the right direction. And if you're already ready to explore something like cybersecurity, you can do that as well. So that's kind of the other component. You've got the community, we've got the career assessment, and then we also have coaching. And coaching, what coaching means is that, or what we're calling mentoring really is, it taps into a larger community of IBMers, volunteers from our 300,000 plus employee base who want to give back through this initiative. And what they do is they offer up their time. So you can book time as a SkillsBuild learner to meet with an IBMer, talk about your career aspirations, talk to somebody, for example, who works in a specific field like cybersecurity or client representation, client service, and learn from them. And then finally, we have a project-based learning component, which we're growing out this year so that learners can not only do coursework, but also do some project-based or real-world learning. So in the couple of minutes I have left, or minute or so I have left, I just want to show you a view of our offerings. So first, I want to show you the badges. So anybody, you all can just go to skillsbuild.org/badges, and you can see all the badges that we have on the platform in these different categories, right? And they're different colors, and that indicates different levels. So a blue badge is the foundations level. A maroon badge like this one here is a practitioner level badge. They're all beginner level or beginner friendly though. So to give you an example, if I were to go to working in a digital world, what I would see is this page, Foundations Working in a Digital World, and I would have these different options for badges. In this case, professional skills. I mentioned when I was showing you the LinkedIn learners who have highlighted their earnings, what they've earned. You see one on professional skills. This is another one called essential skills. the beauty of this kind of platform and the partnership with Credly Acclaim is that we can actually choose what coursework is aligned with what badges. So in the case of professional skills, we have a set of courses developed by IBM. In the case of essential skills, it's a combination of a number of different sources that we've curated from our instructional design team and issued aligned with a given badge. And you can see that we have other learning plans, in this case, for Japanese learners and Spanish learners and German learners that tie back to the same badge, which has been really convenient for our platform, given that we are kind of global in nature and we have to account for different language needs. The other one I want to quickly show you that's been one of our most popular offerings, and if you want to, you can actually earn this badge as well on the open platform at skillsbuild.org, cybersecurity professional. So what does it mean to work in cybersecurity, what you'll learn in this particular path, example employers, an inspirational interview with, in this case, Rob Calvert, who helped us design our foundations level badge for cybersecurity. And then you can see here the cybersecurity fundamentals badge from IBM and SkillsBuild, which is aligned to our cybersecurity fundamentals course. It's been one of our most popular offerings. We launched it right around the time the pandemic was hitting about a year ago. And it's been super popular. It's a 6-hour offering that doesn't require any background in cybersecurity and gives you kind of an entryway into more advanced learning. And the last one I want to show you is data analyst. So in the data analyst path, what we do here is, in addition to offering badges from IBM SkillsBuild, like this one called Introduction to Data Analysis, we also offer badges from the larger IBM network. So in this case, this is an applied data science with Python badge, which comes through a separate platform called Cognitive Class from IBM. So you can see we can be creative with how we kind of combine badges in our different offerings. And yeah, I think that's about it. So that's SkillsBuild. Sorry for the rush toward the end. I didn't want to go over my time, but I think, Kara, if we're at time, I guess we can open it up for questions.
Thanks so much for doing that, Ari. That was a great and rapid tour, and I know how challenging that can be. Before I turn it back over to Kara to read off the questions, I want to invite everyone to go ahead and list their questions. Even if you have to jump now, we will be answering the questions in the 30 minutes following. So you can get the recorded link to this, and hopefully we'll address your question satisfactorily. So.
All right.
Okay.
So the first question that came in, how is the co-branding managed in practice in issuing a badge? Is the endorsement feature used?
Yeah, I can address that. So the Credly platform supports endorsement. We do, as we with all relationships across our network, they are permissioned. So you'll never find an organization simply scraping another organization's credentials or popping it into an open pathway. There's no concept like that across our network. So all the relationships are acknowledged by each party. Endorsement is one way that some groups do shared network value relationships. Co-branding can be visual, or it could utilize our authorized issuing structure, where one organization can centrally define the credentials and authorize another organization to issue them.
Okay, is there one of the wraparound services that's most popular that users prefer? Examples like mentoring, project-based learning, career skills assessment?
Yeah, good question. I think the two that I think are probably most popular are the skills assessment from MyInnerGenius, and also the mentoring component. I think the reason the skills assessment, obviously, because it connects people to a specific learning path, and it's just kind of a cool thing to go through when you start on the platform. The mentoring, because I'm not, speaking from experience as somebody who went through a couple of periods of unemployment in my late 20s. One was over a year long. One thing that a lot of us who've gone through this type of situation struggle with is how to really get insight into what it means to work at a company and talk to people who work at a place like IBM or any number of companies. So being able to book time with an IBMer and talk about your aspirations and talk about your struggles, to be honest, with, how do I best apply for this job? Those types of things are really, I think, a special offering that we're proud of and we see a lot of engagement with.
And I would just add to that, across the Credly network of organizations, these experiential types of exposure to job and work environments are really on the rise, whether that's a virtual reality simulated kind of experience, or whether it's a short-term internship, even some projects. So there's some really cool, innovative ideas going on out there. And again, giving credentials for those gives people a record that they've tried these things on, and that can give them a leg up in the job search.
Okay, Hari, can you say more about the project-based offering you are building? Where do the projects come from? Who evaluates them? How do they fit into the badging structure?
Yeah, that's a good question. So there's two ways that this is operated, but right now the main offering that we have is something called an innovation camp. And so the idea here is, if you're a learner, let's say, who's gone through the web development path, and maybe there's, let's say, 50 or 100 in any given, quarter of the year that have gone through that path, and you're kind of interested in doing additional learning and applying your skills to a real world problem. What we do is, as part of the SkillsBuild program, we partner with other organizations that, specifically nonprofits, that can help us design these project-based learning experiences. So, for example, it might be working with an organization to put together a data set for analysis on something like climate change, for example, or any number of topics. And so these partner organizations that we work with help us define an experience that would take, let's say, 4 to 6 weeks for learners to go through. And learners start with the SkillsBuild platform. So they start by going through any coursework that we've added in order for them to be successful in the project-based learning component. Then they break off into cohorts of learners. Obviously, all this is done virtually now with COVID. Work with a cohort of learners on a specific project or a specific assignment. And then they have mentors both from IBM and from our partner organizations that work with us, that help them, that check in periodically as they're working through their project. And these mentors are subject matter experts in areas that we focus on, right? So it might be data science or AI, it might be web development, what have you. And then there's typically, in these innovation camps, a pitch day or a pitch night, where learners will virtually pitch their idea as part of a team to these judges from IBM and other organizations. So it's a really nice way for learners to get exposure to a project-based learning experience, but also get exposure to IBMers and showcase their skills to us. In terms of how this works with the badging structure, we actually do and have created innovation camp badges, which has been really cool. So on that badge page that I shared with you, skillsbuild.org/badges, you'll actually see, in addition to the offerings around cybersecurity and customer service, you'll also see badges for these innovation camps. And I think they're actually even focused on things like data science and web development and so on. So yeah, and in addition to that, with other project-based learning, one thing that I was really excited to work on last year for SkillsBuild is something called cyber tackles trafficking. And so the idea here is that we wanted to be able to give some hands-on experience for our learners who have gone through some of the cybersecurity and data science coursework on SkillsBuild to work on a real project, or rather do data analysis. So what we had was, within IBM, we do a lot of work on anti-human trafficking. So we created some new modules talking about anti-human trafficking efforts. In our learning plan, which is called Cyber Tackles Trafficking, we also included some coursework on cybersecurity and data analysis. And then I worked with a team of experts in Ireland who are experts in data science, but also anti-human trafficking, to put together a project around an FBI incidents analysis data set, where learners can go in and work hands-on with Python and Jupyter Notebook and GitHub and things like that people in the field really need to be fluent on. So that's another way we do project-based learning within SkillsBuild. And when we develop these, we always develop them with subject matter experts who work in the field to make sure that they're valid exercises and they tie back to actual job skills. So I hope that answered your question.
Okay, great. And then in SkillsBuild, does completion of some courses naturally lead to another course recommendation, for example, or possibly to a collection of courses in a type of pathway?
Yeah, good question. So there's a recommendation engine within SkillsBuild. I think what usually happens, if you finish a course, let's say the cybersecurity fundamentals course within SkillsBuild, it doesn't necessarily automatically prompt you to, hey, you might want to explore, this next level offering for cybersecurity. But there are course recommendations based on what you've done in the platform, certainly, and also based on your profile. So when you sign up for SkillsBuild, you might specify that I'm interested in areas X, Y, Z, and then based on that, you would get recommendations that are kind of smart recommendations, so to speak. But Mark, to the second part, this idea of a collection of courses or a type of pathway, when we define these learning paths like web developer or cybersecurity professional, we intentionally kind of structure it so that there are core skills offerings that are sequential. So for example, if you go through cybersecurity fundamentals, the next recommended step within that learning path is an offering from Fortinet, which is another company outside IBM that offered us some coursework to offer for free to our learners. With data analysis, similarly, we have the foundational path and then a suggested kind of linear path for you to follow afterward. So yeah, I hope that work answers your question.
Mark, from a technology perspective, the badges can support recommendations and stackable progressions. I'm not sure whether the specific SkillsBuild badges use that, but I know there are some other IBM badges that do.
And do you have any examples of use by organizations that are based in Europe?
Oh, for sure, yeah. Actually, you know what? Let me just quickly bring up for you.
The whole
Yes.
SkillsBuild thing launched in Europe. So.
Yeah, it did actually. It launched in Europe, and so that's why I mentioned, this idea of partners who need language coursework in multiple languages. That started actually with our partners in France and Germany. So let me just actually quickly, I promised earlier that I would share this with you all. So in terms of the organizations that we work with in Europe, so if you go to skillsbuild.org and you go to the partners tab, you don't have to log in, it's all the pre-login page. You can see things that I've covered here, like the content, but you can also see the partners we work with. So I can focus on Europe here. And then within that, you can see the organizations we work with in France and the UK, Belgium. It's also a good opportunity for me to share. The organizations cover a wide variety of individual. This organization, Force Femme in France, focuses on women who are returning to the workforce and entrepreneurship education. We have one here, Code Door in Germany, is actually a nonprofit plus a content partner, and they support refugees who are and migrants and asylum seekers who are attempting to get into the web development field. City Gateway works with young people in London who haven't gone through higher education but want to work in the tech sector. So a lot of really cool organizations that we've partnered with across the world, and including Europe. In terms of content partners as well, we explore partnerships with organizations not just in the US, but also in Europe and Asia and other places. So for example, in Japan, we worked with an organization called iLearning, and we're able to tie again that learning to badges that are issued through Credly. In Europe, we work with an organization called Corp Academy, and Corp Academy is based in Paris, and they focused on short form gamified learning, and their coursework was crucial for us in the creation of our essential skills badges. So yeah, lots of partnerships in Europe, both on the NGO side and also on the content side.
And I would say, as with IBM SkillsBuild as one prominent example, it's not by any means the only program that we work with like this. The CSR programs at most of the big tech companies are either thinking about this or have launched programs. There's incredible stuff available for Africa and emerging economies in Southeast Asia. The Grow with Google program, for instance, is another example of a similar kind of a program like this, or AWS's Academy, or the Cisco Networking Academy programs. We do a number of things with Microsoft. So that factoid I started with, that there's going to need to be millions and millions of more digital workers in the next 5 years, is something that's very much a motivator for all of the tech companies. And I think they're all doing a great job of working together with a social philanthropy perspective to bring these programs to market and make these opportunities available, especially to underserved populations. So.
All right, well, thanks everyone for your time today, and have a great rest of your day.
Kara, question for you. Will you be providing us with a list of people who attended?